Every couple dreams of the perfect ceremony. You envision the sun-drenched aisle, the heartfelt vows, the joyous celebration, a day etched in memory as flawless. But what if I told you there's one tiny, often overlooked ceremony rule, a silent understanding among guests that, if broken, can shatter that illusion entirely? It's not about the floral arrangements, the designer dress, or even a misplaced ring. It's about something far more insidious, something that turns your guests from delighted observers into a quiet jury, whispering their judgments behind cupped hands long after the last dance. This isn't about grand gaffes. It's about the subtle, almost imperceptible missteps that, when accumulated, transform a day of joy into a hotbed of hushed complaints. Couples pour their hearts, souls, and often their life savings into crafting what they believe will be the ultimate wedding experience. They agonize over linen colors, spend hours selecting the perfect playlist, and meticulously plan every aesthetic detail, from the calligraphy on the invitations to the very last sparkler exit. The focus, understandably, is on the visual spectacle, the Instagrammable moments, the grand gestures that create a magazine-worthy spread. Yet, in this meticulous pursuit of perfection, a fundamental truth often gets lost: the guest experience. While the couple is immersed in their fairy tale, guests are experiencing the event through a very different lens, one that prioritizes comfort, convenience, and genuine connection over curated backdrops. They're not just there to witness, they're there to participate, to feel welcomed, and to enjoy themselves. The illusion is that a beautiful backdrop guarantees a beautiful experience. But the reality is that the most stunning decor in the world can't compensate for a guest who feels overlooked, uncomfortable, or worse, taken for granted. This disconnect is where the tiny cracks begin to form, leading to a silent assessment of the event that has nothing to do with how much was spent, and everything to do with how guests were treated. It's the subtle shift from admiration to exasperation, often born from the most basic human needs being overlooked, the most immediate and potent source of guest discontent. Often whispered about with a mix of hunger and disbelief, boils down to one thing: the stomach. Picture this: you've traveled for hours, dressed in your finest, and arrived at the ceremony, perhaps a little early, perhaps a little hungry. The ceremony itself is beautiful, but it runs a bit long. Then comes the cocktail hour, promised to be a delightful prelude to dinner. But what arrives? A single solitary tray of tiny, almost microscopic appetizers circulated once, maybe twice, among 100 eager hands. Or worse, the cocktail hour stretches on an hour, then two, with no substantial food in sight. Only an open bar that, while appreciated, only intensifies the gnawing hunger. This isn't just about being peckish, it's about a primal human need being ignored. When guests are hungry, their mood sours with surprising speed. That initial joy gives way to a low hum of irritation, their focus shifting from the happy couple to the growing emptiness in their stomachs. And then there's the infamous cash bar, a true anathema in the world of hospitality. After traveling, buying gifts, and perhaps even taking time off work, being asked to pay for your own drinks at a celebration you were invited to feels like a slap in the face. It sends a clear message: we want you here, but we're not willing to fully host you. The murmurs begin almost immediately. Can you believe this is a cash bar? Or I'm starving. When is dinner? These aren't just minor complaints. They're the silent judgment of a stomach, a thirst, and a feeling of being unappreciated, turning what should be a joyful occasion into an exercise in endurance. Beyond the rumblings of an empty stomach, another silent torment that guests rarely vocalize, but profoundly feel, is the tyranny of time and waiting. Imagine arriving at a wedding excited and ready to celebrate, only to find yourself in a purgatory of unexplained delays. The ceremony starts 20 minutes late, then 30. It's held outdoors under a blazing sun, or perhaps in a drafty church, with no explanation or apology. Guests shift uncomfortably, checking their watches, their initial anticipations slowly draining away, replaced by a dull ache of boredom and impatience. Then, the ceremony concludes and you're told to head to the reception venue. But there's a 2-hour gap between the two, filled with nothing but awkward standing around while the bridal party takes endless photos. No refreshments, no entertainment, just an open-ended void of time. This isn't a break, it's a trap. Guests feel stranded, unsure of what to do, where to go, or how long they'll be held captive. The laughter fades, replaced by sighs and an eagerness to escape. Even during the reception itself, long, drawn-out speeches that meander for what feels like an eternity, or an overly packed schedule of events with little room for organic interaction, can make guests feel like they're simply spectators in a performance rather than cherished participants. The energy wanes, the enthusiasm dwindles, and the only thing guests look forward to is the moment they can politely slip away. When a celebration feels like an endurance test, the lasting impression isn't one of joy, but of relief that it's finally over. The seating chart, seemingly an innocuous detail, holds a secret shame for many a guest. It's often the source of whispered complaints that fester throughout the evening, long after the last dance. Picture this: you're dressed up, ready to mingle and celebrate, only to find yourself crammed at a table where your elbows touch your neighbors with every forkful. The space is so tight you can barely shift in your chair, let alone get up to dance or socialize without a complex maneuver. Or perhaps you're placed at a table with complete strangers, none of whom seem inclined to talk, leaving you feeling isolated and awkward, desperately scrolling through your phone to avoid eye contact. Worse still, you might be strategically placed at the overflow table, far from the action, near the kitchen doors, or right under a blasting speaker, making conversation impossible. These aren't minor inconveniences, they're fundamental assaults on comfort and social ease. Guests are there to enjoy themselves, to connect, and to feel part of the celebration. When the seating arrangement actively prevents this by making them physically uncomfortable, socially isolated, or acoustically challenged, sends a clear message of oversight, if not outright disregard. The whispers begin. Can you believe how cramped we are? Or who are these people? I don't know anyone at this table. What was intended as a thoughtful arrangement can quickly become a source of profound discomfort and a lasting negative memory, turning what should be an opportunity for connection into a quiet, endured ordeal beyond the immediate discomforts. There's an unseen cost to guest expectations that often becomes the subject of hushed conversations. It's the subtle, sometimes unintentional, pressure hosts can place on their attendees, turning what should be a joyous invitation into a perceived obligation or even a financial burden. Consider the ever-expanding gift registry. While a registry is helpful, some couples push the boundaries, listing only high-end, aspirational items that force guests into spending far more than they might be comfortable with, or making them feel cheap for choosing something more modest than there are. The destination weddings, while beautiful, requiring guests to shell out for flights, hotels, and sometimes multiple days off work, especially without any consideration for their travel or accommodation once there, can breed resentment. It subtly implies that the couple's dream vacation is more important than the financial strain it places on their loved ones. And it's not just about money. It can be the expectation of a specific dress code that requires an expensive new outfit, or the assumption that guests will participate in every pre-wedding event, from engagement parties to bridal showers to bachelorette trips, each adding to the cumulative cost and time commitment. When guests feel like they are being asked to fund a lavish spectacle rather than genuinely invited to share in a milestone, the narrative shifts. The whispers move from "isn't this beautiful" to "did you see their registry? And now we have to pay for our own drinks too." It's a feeling of being used, or that the event is more about show and receiving than about shared joy and genuine hospitality. This subtle but significant pressure can transform a happy occasion into a source of quiet grievance and a feeling of being exploited. Perhaps the most critical, yet often overlooked, aspect that dictates guest perception is the host's blind spot. The acknowledgement and engagement of their guests. Imagine arriving at a wedding, eager to congratulate the happy couple, only to find them constantly whisked away for photos, or perpetually surrounded by a small, impenetrable circle of immediate family. You might catch a fleeting glimpse, a quick wave from across the room, but no genuine interaction, no personal greeting, no moment of sincere thanks for your presence. Guests, particularly those who have traveled significant distances or made considerable efforts to attend, crave that personal touch. They want to feel seen, appreciated, and genuinely welcomed, not just as a number filling a seat. When hosts are too preoccupied, too stressed, or simply too focused on the mechanics of the event, they inadvertently treat their guests like props in their grand production rather than cherished participants. The lack of eye contact, the absence of a brief "thank you for coming," or the failure to circulate and spend a few moments with each table sends a powerful, albeit unspoken message of indifference. This isn't about demanding attention. It's about the fundamental human need for connection and validation. When guests feel like an afterthought, like mere background scenery for someone else's highlight reel, they become disengaged. The joy of being part of something special evaporates, replaced by a quiet sense of being unvalued. The whispers turn inward. Did they even notice I was here? Or I guess they're too busy for us. This blind spot, the failure to genuinely connect and acknowledge, leaves a lasting impression of coldness, far more damaging than any minor logistical hiccup. Ultimately, the success of any ceremony in the eyes of its guests isn't measured by the extravagance of the decor, the cost of the catering, or the celebrity of the band. It's defined by the sum of countless, tiny human-centric details. The tiny ceremony rule that makes guests talk behind your back isn't a single, isolated blunder, but rather the cumulative effect of neglecting the fundamental comfort consideration. An acknowledgement of those who have gathered to celebrate you. It's the hungry stomach, the interminable wait, the cramped seating, the subtle financial pressure, and most profoundly, the feeling of being unseen and unappreciated. These aren't just minor oversights, they are profound misjudgments of hospitality that speak volumes about how much the hosts truly value their guests. A lavish affair can quickly be overshadowed by a perpetually empty glass or a feeling of being ignored, while a modest gathering, rich in genuine warmth and thoughtful consideration, for every attendee will be remembered with fondness and admiration. The lasting impression isn't about the grand gestures, but about the genuine care. A truly memorable event isn't just a beautiful spectacle. It's an experience where every guest feels cherished, comfortable, and an integral part of the shared joy. The real measure of success lies not in the perfect photograph, but in the quiet, contented conversations that happen long after the music fades. Conversations filled with warmth, not whispered judgment.